Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. How's Eddie Frederick?
So glad you can join us. A former UNC member explained why the UNC lost the black vote in Trinidad and Tobago, costing them the election. This story takes the lead in our 928th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Wednesday, 26th August 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Former United National Congress Member of Parliament for Barataria, San Juan, Dr. Fuad Khan, is hinting that the reason the party lost the general election is because it failed to join hands with other political entities. TV6's Alicia Boucher reports.
The United National Congress's performance in the 2020 general election is still being assessed. Dr. Fuad Khan says it should come as no surprise that the UNC was defeated by the People's National Movement, as he feels history can be used as a reference under the Pandey-led UNC administration.
Pandey made the same mistake. The mistake that he made and ended up in opposition. I will tell you why. In 2001, Pandey tell people who want to go could go. To hell with you. I ain't calling nobody. I ain't gonna let her come to me. That is what Pandey basically did. I remember that. I was there.
Dr. Khan is crediting the UNC's win in 2010 to the formation of the coalition that was the People's Partnership Government, which saw a coming together of the Congress of the People, the Movement for Social Justice, the Independent Liberal Party, and others.
They were unceremoniously frittered away in between 2010 and 2015. COP was a shot of Rachel, etc. Look around and fight.
Dr. Khan reveals that he and Ganga Singh made attempts to once again join hands with others for the 2015 general election. However, he says that position was not adopted on a leadership level, resulting in defeat.
Had we done that, take up our phone and call people, the only person to do that is the leader. Pandey tried, Pandey told me he tried. He tried to get an appointment to speak, didn't occur. Nobody called Vassant. Nobody, I'm talking leadership. Nobody called Vassant and said, come across, let's talk. Nobody called Pandey and said, come, let's talk. Nobody called Jack and said, let's talk. We want to go it alone. So we end up being alone.
But more than that, Dr. Khan feels that the UNC lost supporters with the removal of two key persons from the party.
When we kicked out Gypsy and we kicked out Jack, we lost the strength of the black vote.
Dr. Khan says these elements continue to cause the demise of the party election-wise. He's hoping that the UNC would move forward in forming what he calls a unified front. Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
Meantime, time for a new political leader of the United National Congress. That's the repeated call of former minister under the People's Partnership, Devant Maraj. Here is Alicia Boucher again with some details.
Devant Maraj is challenging UNC leader Kamla Prasad-Bissasa's ability to lead the new MPs in her party. According to the former minister, the signs are already telling, citing Chaguanas East MP Vandana Mohit's comments on social media, which has since been deleted, in which she said, quote, "COVID has turned on the PNM, karma," end quote.
We saw over the weekend at Vandana Mohit irresponsible statement on COVID. It's called for concern, and many other things included lack of leadership in the parliament, with the leadership coming late and leaving early on some cases, failure of the party to support bills like the evidence amendment bill, the bail amendment bill.
Murad says this was done without proper justification to the public. He's also chiding Prasad Bisesa over what he believes was a lack of media engagement during the general election period.
So some of the decisions made, I think, speak volumes that Ms. Prasad Bisesa should step down immediately and give way for internal election, a free and fair internal election on which the list is well known.
He also feels men are losing their voices in the party.
I'm concerned about the weaponization of gender in the party. That as a male in the party, if you speak critically, it is viewed as an attack on women. In fact, I feel the UNC should invest in creating a men's army right now.
But does Miraj have his sights set on anyone he deems capable of leading the UNC?
I am sure that there is somebody out there. I am not supporting any person out there because the call for the election, internal election, may birth a new leader on the horizon that's not in our peripheral vision even. But we cannot take the position who we will put. The party is not a cow on a rope.
Furthermore, Miraj is hinting that there may be plans to delay the UNC's internal elections.
The internal elections was held in November 2017. 3 years afterwards, it's 2020. It's due this year. But you are hearing in the narrative on the UNC executive, who are all members of parliament now, so they are compromised and conflicted in my respectful view, saying it's 2021. It's due this year.
But is it a case of the fox calling the grapes sour, as Miraj did serve under the same leader he is now bashing? He says the party's performance while in government compared to that in opposition is chalk and cheese.
Because you're in government, you have that scrutiny from the national population and from the media at a much higher level than during opposition.
Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
A Tobago-born US-based virologist, Dr. Cindy Duke, says she is very concerned about the drastic spike in COVID-19 cases, saying it is possible that the increase in positive cases came about due to complacency. Nicholas Lutchman Singh of TV6 News reports.
Dr. Cindy Duke said she is concerned that persons are not taking the threat of COVID-19 seriously and are in denial about its reach and effects. On the issue of herd immunity, she said while it may be forward-thinking in some aspects, there are long-term effects that need to be considered.
The problem with that is not the virus we're dealing with here. And when you're looking for herd immunity, there are a few other things that need to happen. It needs to be very mild in its disease progression. And I hear a lot of people who say, well, it is mild, Dr. Duke, because only 1 to 3% of people died. Well, that's very myopic in a view, because it's not just the fatalities, it's how many people are actually still battling with COVID-19 once infected.
She said the long-term effects of COVID-19 are deleterious and that between 20 and 30% of persons who are infected with the virus end up needing special care long after they no longer have the virus.
Even when they're discharged to home, they're home with long-term disability, they're home with bleeding disorders, they're home with strokes, they're home with kidney failure, they're home with a number of now what appears to be near chronic long-term diseases.
She said COVID-19 is not a common virus and does not behave like the common cold where one thinks after recovery they will get back to normal life. In relation to Trinidad and Tobago, where she notes that many persons have undiagnosed non-communicable diseases, and as such, herd immunity will not be the way to go.
With Trinidad and Tobago having high rates of underlying heart disease, underlying diabetes, underlying comorbidities, undiagnosed even, that is a flawed way to approach it, and it can only lead to problems and catastrophic problems at that.
Dr. Cindy Duke said there are a few vaccines that have reached phase 2 trials, one step away from becoming available to the public in higher risk groups. And even though they look promising, only time will tell how good and efficient the vaccines will be.
Running out of space in public health facilities. That is the warning of Jamaica's health minister as COVID-19 cases continue to soar. Krista Campbell of TVJ News reports.
98 new COVID-19 cases in a 24-hour period between Wednesday and Thursday, and 53 of those cases are from Kingston and St. Andrew. As Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton prepares for even more spread of the virus, he's warning that home quarantine may soon be the norm. He says close to 29,000 persons are currently quarantined at home, and hospitals and other government facilities are running out of space.
The field hospital is on the table still, and in fact there are discussions taking place with a bilateral partner around sourcing this facility. And at the same time, however, the discussions around expanding areas for quarantining or isolation outside of the hospital setting, as I had said earlier, that is ongoing.
10 of the new cases are from the backlog extending to early July. That's now been cleared up. The other 88 cases were taken from samples over a 2-day period. The chief medical officer says the new positives would have been infected over the Emancipendence holiday period from August 1 to 6.
We know that there were a number of gatherings and parties at that time, and we believe that some of what this is happening now 2 weeks later is as a result of those activities there. So we're always 2 weeks behind whatever event it is that triggered, or the activities that triggered what we're seeing now.
And as she again cautions persons against large gatherings, a concession from the health minister about the challenges maintaining crowd control during nomination day on Tuesday.
As you know, this part of our democracy is accompanied by significant festivities, and it is a motivator for participation, which is something you don't want to discourage. I hope that what has transpired during nomination day will certainly cause persons to be concerned and to take the precautions, but not be so discouraging that persons do not participate in the political process, given the importance of the decision.
Moving forward to Election Day on September 3, he says it's up to the candidates to continue to persuade supporters and put measures in place to ensure they follow the COVID safety protocols. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
In a TVJ News follow-up, Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett has sought to defend a recent directive to have visiting tourists remain on property and not venture out. He insisted that it had to be done given the rise in coronavirus cases. TVJ's O'Shane Masters reports.
Owners of attractions first raised the issue, arguing that all restaurants, attractions, and hotels which have COVID-19 resilience certification from the TPDCO should be allowed to receive tourists. This week, President of the Negral Chamber of Commerce, Richard Wallace, shared a similar view, adding that the government should rethink its policy which mandates guests to remain at their hotel.
Unless the tourists leave the hotel, the local economy does not benefit. So taxi drivers, attractions, shops, craft vendors, none of those people benefit when the hotels are locked up, when the guests are locked up in the hotels. So it's very devastating for the local economy. So we would love for the government to...
He says the fallout has already begun.
There have been many cancellations because of this rule, especially for Negril.
In light of this, the larger all-inclusive properties are mostly benefiting from the tourist arrivals. Mr. Wallace points out that they are, for the most part, foreign-owned. In an interview recently with TVJ News, the tourism minister says the directive was put in place to prevent community spread of the coronavirus.
I'm sorry, and I really regret very much that an order that we made, which should have started on the 7th of August, we have had to retract because of the situation. The spread is here, and if it is here, we have to act. And I think everybody understands this. It's a difficult call, but it's a call that the government had to make.
He says he is mindful of the difficulties being faced by attractions and other tourism-related businesses outside the resilient corridor.
I know that attractions have expended to bring back their properties to an acceptable level, and in the process have expended resources. Workers have actually come back, but we have to work together in this one. We have to manage it together.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.